Hey everybody, welcome back to the SuperBake podcast. I'm your host, Baker. Let's talk about stuff. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. So today I wanted to take some time to talk about the Nintendo Direct event last week. It was on the 13th of last week. Had the chance to watch the trailers for some of the new games on there, so just want to take some time and just kind of talk about those, give my thoughts on some of them. I'm not going to go over the entire list of games that were revealed because it was quite a few. I kind of put together like a list here, and I just sort of highlighted the ones that caught my interest. So just going to talk about a few of them. First one I saw that they announced was Pikmin 4 has officially been announced for the Switch. So at the event, we got the first sneak peek at the game. Which I remember they were talking about, people have been talking about wanting a Pikmin 4 game for quite a while, because I think 3 came out like about 10 years ago or something like that. I am going to be honest, I've never been a huge fan of the Pikmin series. I played a little bit of the first one. It was okay. I've never really liked games that gave me a time limit. I know in that game you had like 30 in-game days to, I think, get off the planet, and you had to use the Pikmin to salvage parts for your ship. It's been a long time since I played it. I didn't play any of the sequels afterwards, but I know I have a lot of friends that are huge Pikmin fans, so I know a lot of them are going to be really happy about this. It sounds like Nintendo's been kind of hinting at this for a while, but we've just never gotten anything concrete. So this is like the first real, actual, legit thing that we've gotten for it. So got a little bit of a trailer for it. I mean, it was just really a teaser trailer. I think it was just like the title card, and that's it. I think there's been a few pictures released of the gameplay, but not much else beyond that. But it looks like there's no specific release date. It just says it's coming out in 2023. So yeah, that's interesting. Next on the list that I wanted to talk about briefly was Fire Emblem Engage, the next in the Fire Emblem series. So this game looks interesting because I saw in the trailer that it looks like the main character you play as, it looks like you summon Marth from the previous game, or previous games in the series. I like Fire Emblem. I have not played too many games in the franchise. I've played Awakening. I need to play Three Houses. One of my buddies has it, and I need to borrow that. I feel like I played a little bit of the one that came before Awakening. It's mostly been like the 3DS ones that I've played. But I mean, I like what I've played of Fire Emblem. It was just never a series that really grabbed me that much, even when I was younger. But yeah, I mean, this looks pretty cool. I mean, it looks like, your typical Fire Emblem game. I like the way it looks. I like the design of the game and the characters. It is kind of cool to see Marth showing up in this one. Let's see, what did it say? It is launching for the Switch on January 20th in 2023. Alongside the Divine Edition, featuring a steel textbook case and art book. Nice, I love art books. Pre-orders for the game are now available on the Nintendo eShop. All right, interesting. Next one I want to talk about was Octopath Traveler. So I remember hearing rumors that they were supposedly working on a sequel, but I didn't know for sure if they were actually going to do it or not. As far as I was aware, nothing had been confirmed yet. So I saw the trailer for it. Pretty much looks just like the first one did, has that same HD 2D graphics that I freaking love, that retro look from old school JRPGs, so that's really cool. It looks like it's in a new world with 8 completely new characters, although it does look like they are the same exact classes from the first game, like the thief, the dancer, the warrior, and stuff like that. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. I really liked Octopath Traveler. I don't think I've talked about it too much on this podcast yet, but I really liked the first game a lot. Beat it for the Switch. I didn't beat every character's story in that game. I know I beat Tressa. I feel like I beat Tressa and Ulberich. I don't remember if I did Therion, if that's how you say his name. But yeah, I mean, I really liked it a lot. It was a good game. I didn't play through all 8 characters' stories just because I kind of lost interest in that. I do remember it was a pretty challenging game, especially the boss fights. Regular mobs, I just remember I would train and level up and get to the point where I would roll through regular mobs pretty easily, but then I would get to bosses and just get my ass stomped. So it was a pretty brutal game in that regard. The only thing was, though, it just kind of felt like the novelty wore off for me. I remember I borrowed it from a buddy and just fell in love with the gameplay and the look of the game almost immediately. And so I went out and just bought it myself. And I remember really enjoying it for the most part, but then I just kind of feel like as I got further into the game, it just felt like it kind of got old after a while. By the time I beat it, I was pretty much ready to be done with it. And since this game looks like it's going to be pretty much the same kind of thing as the first one, I don't know, I'm a little bit hesitant. Hopefully it's good. I mean, I'm sure it'll get good reviews, but I'll just have to wait and see how that plays out. I'm not in too big a hurry to pick this one up, and it looks like it's coming out relatively soon. February 24th of 2023 is the release date that Nintendo has provided for it. So that's definitely one that I'll keep an eye out for. If it, I mean, unless it gets like just phenomenal reviews, like masterpiece reviews, I probably am going to wait a little while to get that game. So next on the list, I'll just kind of briefly mention this. I saw It Takes Two is actually getting a release on the Switch. So that's really cool. One of my buddies played that game, and he highly recommended it to me. The only thing was, though, it's one of those games where I don't know if it's required that you have to have someone to play co-op with you, or if you can play with a NPC, like a computer NPC. So I'm not sure about that, but that's definitely a game that I'm interested in checking out for sure at some point. I have too many games in my backlog to get through. The next one I want to talk about was Tunic is actually coming to the Switch as well. So that was the game that I think it was originally available on the Xbox, and it basically looks a lot like, it reminds me of the remake of Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. It has kind of like that, has that top-down look, and it looks like you're playing with a bunch of like little miniature toys. Like you're playing like a little fox version of like Link and stuff like that. Like he wears the same kind of green tunic as Link, has a sword and shield, so it looks very reminiscent of Zelda. I heard it's very challenging though. I was wondering for like when it was going to come out on the Switch, because it looks like a Nintendo game to me. That's everything about it. The look of the game just reminds me of something that Nintendo would release. So it looks like it is launching. Looks like it's going to it has a launch date of later this month, September 27th. Pre-orders are now available on the Nintendo eShop. So, all right, I'll keep an eye out on that. The next game that also caught my interest, Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII Reunion. So it looks like this one is about the backstory for the character Zack Fair from the Final Fantasy VII series, the soldier who, if I remember correctly, was friends with Cloud and served with him in the that military outfit they were in. I think it was Soldier. Yeah. So yeah, I know Crisis Core, I think this is a remake of the original, if I'm not mistaken. And I know one of my buddies played it for like the PSP, and he was really into it. So I'll be interested in this for sure. Anything Final Fantasy VII related, I'm definitely on board for it. So this game launches on Nintendo Switch on December 13th, so a little bit before Christmas. So might keep an eye out on that. Let's see. Then of course they announced the Expansion Pass DLC Volume 2 for Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which I am actually in the middle of that game and I'm freaking loving it. I need to keep better track of this stuff. Like I didn't even know there was DLC coming out for it so soon. I mean, the game just came out not too long ago. So yeah, I mean, that's cool. I mean, I'm excited for that too. I mean, any excuse I have to keep playing that game for longer, I'm definitely going to take it for sure. So and then what was it? There was another one. Okay, yeah. Resident Evil Cloud for the Switch. So I saw that it looks like a couple Resident Evil games are going to be available on the Switch. One of them includes Resident Evil Village, which launches on the Switch on October 28th. So not too far away, just around the corner. And it also is going to include the new Winter's Expansion DLC as well. So it looks like they're also going to do Resident Evil 7, Biohazard, Resident Evil 2, the remake, and the Resident Evil 3 remake for the cloud as well. So yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I'm not going to pick up these games on the Switch just because I can get them on the PS5, and I think they'll probably run better. But that's interesting that these games are coming out on the Switch, especially Resident Evil 8, which, is a pretty new game, and just given the graphic requirements for it, I'm kind of surprised they would release it on the Switch. But I guess the fact that it's a cloud version, maybe that will help a little bit. I'm not a tech guy, so I have no idea. I just thought that was interesting. I mean, these are not games that I plan on picking up on the Switch console, just because I feel like I can play them on the PS5 or PS4 and they'll run better. Hope you guys can't hear that beeping. My neighbors are doing something outside there. I think they're having something done to their house, so hopefully you guys can't hear the beeping. But if you can, I can't do anything about it. So moving on. This one, I mean, this game I'm not going to talk about too much just because, I mean, it really wasn't that interesting. I just wanted to note this. Fitness Boxing Fist of the North Star. So I saw this, so it had Kenshiro from the Fist of the North Star series, and it's basically like a fitness game, almost kind of like one of those games you used to play for like the was it the Wii Fit, where you move around and stuff, and you have to move your arms and legs to kind of keep up with the character on the screen. So it's one of those type of games. It's like one of those rhythm type games, except well, not rhythm, but like one of those exercise type games. And the theme is like it's Fist of the North Star. So like you throw punches and kicks to fight enemies on the screen, and that's kind of how where the workout comes in. But what was kind of funny about this was that the way they made Kenshiro look was for a split second, I thought it was they were announcing that he was going to be in Smash Bros. Ultimate. So I was about ready to lose my shit because I just thought like, wait, I thought Sora was the last character, or at least I thought they were done announcing characters because that's kind of how he looked in the trailer. So I just thought that was funny. I'm like, I mean, that's kind of awesome. I mean, he'd be a perfect addition to that game, but nope, just a fitness game. But I just thought that was interesting. I just wanted to note that. The last game, or not the last game, second to last game that I wanted to talk about just quickly, and this one really caught me by surprise, and I'm actually genuinely excited about this one. So they announced the remaster of Tales of Symphonia for the Switch, and so I know I've talked about it before when I did my review for Tales of Arise, but Tales of Symphonia is one of my all-time favorite games. I mean, just period. I would probably almost put it in my top 10 favorite. It's easily my top 10, if not my top five, top five favorite RPGs of all time. The original that I played for the GameCube, seriously, just freaking love that game. So yeah, that's getting a remastered version for the Switch. No specific release date, it just says early 2023. So hopefully that means maybe in the spring, so maybe March or April. It seems like generally when they say early, early next year or whatever, that usually seems to be the case. So maybe even earlier than that, maybe January or February. I'm hopeful on that one. I was a little disappointed in the look of the game. I mean, granted, it is an old game. I think it came out on the GameCube in like 2004 or something like that. So I mean, it's a pretty old game. But I was hoping like the graphics are going to be a little bit more up to date. I mean, I didn't necessarily need like something on the level of Tales of Arise, but I mean, it really doesn't look too different from how it looked on the GameCube. I mean, it still doesn't look terrible, all things considered, but it's definitely dated for sure. Like when you look at the graphics of the game, you can definitely tell it is from a few generations back. So, or a few console generations, I should say. But regardless, I mean, they said they're going to, revamp the combat a little bit, probably try to add some more modern touches to it. So that's really cool. I'm super excited for this game. I freaking love the Tales series, and Symphonia was the one that kind of introduced me to that series. Actually, so story about that is I first discovered Tales of Symphonia just completely by accident. It was in a Blockbuster years and years ago, back in I think early high school. And I know I'm dating myself saying that. I don't care. Yeah, I don't care if I'm dating myself. Shut up. But I just discovered it at Blockbuster on a shelf. I saw the box art, and I thought it looked really fucking cool, so I just rented it and checked it out, and I couldn't put it down. I mean, before that, I was, I liked RPGs for the most part, but this was so different from anything I had played before. It wasn't like Final Fantasy VII where it wasn't turn-based. That was kind of before I really got into turn-based combat. It was just something different. It was like, yeah, you run into enemies and the screen breaks and you go into like the battle screen, but like you could still move your character around. It was still kind of real-time combat in a way. And it was just so refreshing. And I loved the story. I loved the characters. Lloyd Irving, Colette, is it Genus, his friend? I can't remember. I loved all the characters of the game. They were so great. And I still remember it to this day too, because I remember on the GameCube version it had 2 discs, and I remember the first disc was like a huge part of the story, and the second disc was very little. But yeah, it was just such an awesome game, one of my all-time favorites, and really probably one of the games that really kind of got me into RPGs in the first place. So this one I will absolutely be picking up for sure. any excuse to go back and play this game again. And to play it on the Switch too, to me, is just perfect because playing it handheld I think would be awesome. So this is one that I am absolutely looking forward to. And I might even do a review on it when I play it. And finally, last but certainly not least, and I think this probably came as a surprise to nobody, they did another official announcement for the next Legend of Zelda game, where we actually got the title of the game. So the sequel to Breath of the Wild is going to be called Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. And so pretty much, like I said before, not a whole lot new was revealed in this trailer. We got a few more gameplay clips. There is one cool element where it shows Link flying around on what looks to be like sort of like a giant kite contraption. So that was kind of interesting. Beyond that, I mean, it doesn't look like we got too much new gameplay footage. I think they released another piece of footage recently, like in the last couple of days. I need to watch that. I haven't seen that yet. But yeah, like it looks like this is going to have a lot to do with like Link traveling between like flying islands in the sky and going down to like the ground, which I'm assuming is Hyrule. So that's going to be an interesting element. It kind of gives me like Skyward Sword vibes in that regard. So yeah, the official release date for it is May 12th, 2023. That's actually surprising. I kind of thought, I know some people were speculating that it might come out later this year, like around the holiday season, which I kind of thought would make sense. I mean, just for sales purposes, that seems like it would be, a good idea. But I mean, regardless, getting it next summer, I think that's really cool. I'm just surprised that it's getting pushed out so late. The Switch has been around for a while. I need to check out like what the lifespan of the Switch has been, but I feel like it's been around longer than most consoles. It seems like the average lifespan for a console now is like 5-6 years. And I want to say the Switch came out, 2017, 2016? I need to look that up. I could be way off base, but I'm excited for this game, of course. Always anything Zelda related, I'm always on board, so I'll definitely be picking this up. The only thing I will say is, while I love Breath of the Wild, and I definitely understand its praise for being considered arguably the best Zelda game ever, although my favorite is still Wind Waker, the only thing I will say is I hope in this game they get rid of item durability. I mean, I've heard people defend it in the previous game, and if you like it, great. I don't get it, and I disagree, but I just hope they get rid of it. I don't know, I understand that it adds a certain element of challenge to the game, and it makes you really consider fighting enemies and then maybe looking for other ways to get around, like if there's an enemy base you need to get through, if there's somewhere you need to go to and there's an enemy in your way, a group of, whatever they're called, the orc goblin things. Sometimes you could try to find another way to get through them without having to fight them directly. And I appreciate that, but just in a Zelda game, item durability just feels very out of place. It almost kind of feels like if you added gasoline to a GTA game, to me, it just felt like it took away from my enjoyment, because it felt like, well, number one, it felt like the game was pushing you towards combat quite a bit, because there were even moments in the game where I think it was like when the blood moon would come out at night, and then more, even stronger enemies would show up. Which, of course, you don't have to fight them, you can run away, but it definitely felt like the game was trying to push me towards combat. And there were so many enemies around, too. It was just kind of frustrating when I had to constantly, move through different items because they were breaking so fast. And that was the other thing, too. It felt like even the quote-unquote strong, high-quality weapons would break after, 2 or 3 hits. So, I mean, you got the Master Sword, which you could use on, the main bosses, and it wouldn't break. But regular enemies, it would. Granted, that weapon would regenerate, I think, but it still took a long time. I don't know, I'd say just get rid of it. Just get rid of it, or at the very least, maybe just add in, instead of durability in the sequel, maybe just add in, your weapons get dull, and you just have to sharpen them or something. So, they get dull after so many uses, and then they do less damage. You can still fight with them, they just won't do as much damage. So you've just got to sharpen them using whetstones or something. I don't know, I'm just spitballing. But regardless, I mean, we'll see what happens when it comes out. I mean, even if they include item durability, I'm still going to play it just because, like I said, it's Zelda. I'm not going to fucking ignore that shit. But yeah, that's going to be another game to keep an eye out for. And like I said, there were definitely a lot of other games announced during Nintendo Direct, but those are just the ones that I wanted to talk about the ones that kind of caught my interest, or that I just kind of felt like were worth talking about. I mean, the other ones looked interesting too. I mean, Bayonetta 3, they showed the trailer for that. I actually never played Bayonetta before. I don't really know a whole lot about it. My only experience playing with her character is from Smash Bros. Ultimate. But yeah. While we're doing this, let's look up, when did the Nintendo Switch come out? I'm actually kind of curious now. Nintendo Switch, let's see. Glad I'm making you guys listen to this on my podcast instead of actually talking about prepared statements. Let's see. Nintendo Switch release date. Let's see. March 2017. I was right, 2017. So yeah. Wow. So I guess it hasn't been out too terribly long. It's only been out a little over 5 years now because it's 2022. So yeah, it seems longer though. I feel like I've had my Switch much longer than that. Huh. Okay, so I guess it's about the average lifespan of a console. I don't know. For some reason, I guess I felt like it'd been out longer than that. I'm not sure why. Well, I mean, but either way, 5 years, like I said before, that seems like that's usually about how long most modern consoles last these days before they start talking about, introducing a new one. Which was something that I was also expecting at the Nintendo Direct, was that they were going to announce, I know there's been rumors circulating about a Nintendo Switch Pro. The OLED did come out within the last few months because one of my buddies picked it up, but I believe my understanding of that console is that it doesn't really have a more powerful graphics card or CPU. It's just a better display, basically. The handheld screen just has a better display, higher resolution, but that's basically it. The general consensus from that was basically if you've already got a Switch, there's no point getting the new one. You're just going to be spending, hundreds of dollars on something you've already got. But yeah, I remember hearing rumors circulating that they were potentially going to announce a Switch Pro, but that wasn't announced at the Nintendo Direct, so I guess maybe if it does happen, I guess maybe that'll be next year or whenever the next event is. I'm not sure when the next one will be. I don't follow these things closely enough to know when they're going to be, but I probably should for the sake of the podcast. But yeah, these all definitely have me excited. Symphonia definitely has me the most excited. I think that's going to be the one I'm going to be looking forward to the most. I'm going to make time for that game because I haven't played that game in probably, almost 10 years now, I think. I know they re-released it for the PS3 a few years ago. It was that game and also the sequel. But I never played that. I wanted to, but I never picked it up. I never actually played Symphonia 2. I heard it was not as good as the first one, but that's a game that I'd like to check out too at some point. But yeah, definitely some interesting and exciting titles coming out, so I'm going to be keeping an eye out on those. Alright guys, that was all I had for today. Just wanted to give my thoughts on the event. I will catch you guys next time. Later.